Hello and welcome to episode 89 of I'm Fine, a chat around the subjects of health, wealth and well-being between myself, Damo, and someone who can do more pull-ups than you, Mark. Hiya.
Hiya.
You can also hang for a long time by your hands, can't you?
Mm.
Which I have no idea. I don't know, no idea what the point is of that, apart from, braggers' rights, I guess. I could do
and
it
to win
longer than you.
$100 in American fairs. That's where it all came from.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, right, how long do you have to hang for?
100 seconds.
It sounds easy, doesn't it? It's not.
It's not for two reasons. One is I can hang for well over 100 seconds.
Yeah.
But not if someone's got a remote control in their hand that wobbles the
Oh, is that what that thing
the
does?
bar. Yeah.
Right.
And also the bar is bigger than a normal bar, so it grips far harder.
Okay. And you can't be bothered to go to, well, you probably can't go to America to even try and win that, can you?
No. I'd probably get thrown out by John Robinette Biden.
Who?
John Robinette Biden.
Again, who? Right. I heard you the first time, not deaf.
The president, yeah.
Oh.
That's his middle name.
Is it? Oh.
Did you see my Insta story about Greta?
That was brilliant. Her middle name, yeah, that was excellent.
Also, I'd only just realised that Greta's an anagram of great, as in reset, but Thunberg isn't an anagram of reset. Otherwise, that would have been perfect.
Right.
If only named been Greta Setter. The Swedish dog.
Greta Zeta. You really haven't done much today, have you? Am I the first person you spoke to today? So Greta Thunberg's full name,
Yeah.
Can you remember it, Mark?
Greta Hershey's Adventures of Tintin. No, Greta Tintin
Eleonora, yeah.
Eleonora something.
Ernman Thunberg.
Yeah.
Man, even Tintin is your middle name.
That's brilliant.
It's
isn't it?
awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've lost my place. I'm trying to do this without editing again.
Mm-hmm. Find your place quick.
Yeah, we're all work in progress, and this podcast is no exception. In short, it's spoken our perfectly imperfect lives, and if we can make just one person feel like they're not alone in all this madness, then our work here is done. You can connect with us via Instagram, Facebook, whatever. It won't be called Facebook by next week.
FB,
Just you watch.
called,
FB?
Yeah.
Is that if it?
It's not
Have they
official
leaked it?
prediction.
A prediction. Fucking hell. Twitter, YouTube by searching for I'm Finecast. And don't forget to subscribe to us and turn on your notifications to make sure you don't miss an episode of us. In this episode, we'll be discussing Mark's most favourite of our body's organic chemicals, dopamine.
L-Dopa.
L-Dopa, is that Spanish?
No, it is part of what's given out as called L-Dopa.
Oh, cool. So what's actually happened? Have you read a tweet and now you're an expert? Is that what's happened? I can't remember. You brought it up and I was like, what? All right. Someone swallowed an encyclopedia.
So, I think that in my past life, part of my addictions have been driven by dopamine. And I think I continue to be driven by dopamine.
Right. And
when I heard this guy talk, I suddenly realised that it's a bit like the way that we had this discussion before, how at certain stages in your education you're told something, and then when you go on to higher education they go, that's just what we told you because you were young. Right. And then we're going to tell you the truth, and then you find out the whole world's a conspiracy and none of it's true because we're living in a simulation. So, But so what I was thinking was that some of the stuff that I've sort of repeated sort of ad nauseum is, oh yes, I really chased that dopamine blip and I was like, I did this and that gave me a little rush and and I was chasing the rush to get another one. Yeah. And then I listened to this guy for 2.25 hours and suddenly, because he's a scientist.
Oh, right. One of them.
Yeah.
How many letters has he got after his name?
He's one of the ones I believe.
Bet his middle name isn't Tintin, is it?
No. So, so I just learnt stuff and I just thought, one of the things...
I mean, it's not you're not a million miles away from what you've already told me, but it's a slight kind of realignment, isn't it, of how it works?
I think the realignment is to make it useful. We had a discussion when we stopped doing the pod, and it was like, we don't want to just go down rabbit holes. If we can bring something, they're just one thing. And I think what happened was that the majority of people won't have 2.25 hours to listen to this podcast, won't have the ability to listen to it 2 or 3 times to understand it all. But there's things in there that I think if you know, in the 10 or 12 minutes I'm going to talk will be of benefit. That's what I'm trying to say. I think I'm distilling his his expertise.
Yeah, just for all your listeners, this won't be a 2.5 hour episode. So I've got things to do.
Or plagiarism, as it's known.
Yeah. I look forward to hearing all about that, Mark. And you've even bought paperwork to read off of. It's small type as well, a couple of pages, small type. That's impressive.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. You all right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Pillowcases. Here's the thing. Well, not pillowcases. How many pillows do you have?
Personal question.
Okay.
I have 2.
Do they remain in the same order?
God, you're going to tell me something rank, aren't you? That
No. It's
Okay.
just occurred to me.
yes, they stay in the same. Well, they have 2 positions during the 24-hour period.
Mm-hmm.
One when I'm not on them.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
2,
the empty period.
yeah, as it's known, and the sleeping period, which they change positions.
What I'm saying is the top one always the top one? Pretty much.
Well, the top one's always the top one when it's in empty mode,
Mm-hmm.
and when it's in sleep mode, it's always the bottom one.
Explain that.
I think I've got that the wrong way around.
Do you turn your pillows around?
Not around. Oh, this is getting really complicated.
This is
There's
the
only
point.
2 pillows.
This is the point I was trying to make.
Just make your point, because I'm getting confused.
I was listening to a podcast, and it's 2 people were talking. One of them said, "How come you only have a plain pillowcase on your bottom pillow, and you have a fancy
the one that
on your top?"
One's for show, one's for. I was going to say dough, but that makes no
Yeah.
sense.
Oh, now you've got to edit.
I'm not. Everyone's going to see what you're really like.
So, so the situation is I have that. I have my white pillowcase and my fancy pillowcase, and the fancy one is on top.
I see. Your Power Rangers one is on top, and your plain one's on bottom.
Exactly.
Because I've seen your pajamas. You got matchy, haven't you?
I have a relative, and when he was young, he used to watch the Powder Puff Girls.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
you also watch that?
No,
Okay.
of course I didn't.
So the point I'm making is, you've got 2 pillows. Surely you would you've got 4 combinations of which one
you're right.
one you sleep on and which side
a bit
of
of
that.
rotation.
But we don't rotate our pillows. Why on earth not?
I do if it's hot, and then I rotate to get the cool side.
Okay.
We all do that, don't we?
Mm,
Not through the winter though. No.
no.
I thought you were going to say some kind of you have to change them, like No.
No.
More than 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks.
No, it just seems strange to me that we just seem to.
It is weird. Yeah, you're right, because you have the decorative one on the top, and
Yeah.
you go to work. Well, some of them we go and read the Daily Express.
Or look up Greta's middle name. Look up work better.
Yeah, but it's odd, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm going to leave the room now and not look at this room and make it nice to look at
Yeah.
and not be here.
Yeah.
And when I'm in it, in an intense kind of sleeping, but bedrooms are weird, aren't they?
Yeah.
You might as well just have a completely plain white cube with a mattress.
Yep.
And that is it, right?
Yes.
There's no point having decorative things because
You don't need space at the side of the bed.
Yes.
The room should be a bed.
We had this chat, didn't we?
We did.
People go, "Wow, I'd like a nice big bedroom." What the fuck for?
Hmm.
What do you do? Laps of your bed.
Hmm.
A bit of exercise in the morning. You know what? You
No.
go into the room, very rare, and then very rarely, don't you?
Mhm.
Maybe to change, and you go out again, and then you
Mhm.
sleep in it,
Mhm.
spend good 8 hours in it, with your eyes closed. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
Why do we need to make them look nice?
If we're going to do anything decorative, really, it should be on the ceiling.
Or inside your eyelids.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we move on?
Yeah.
You're okay, are you?
Yeah.
I won't see you tomorrow morning
No.
for training.
Because big day.
Yeah, it is a big day.
Yeah.
I'm quite nervous.
Bit nervous.
Yeah, I'm a bit
Get that
nervous.
dopamine going.
Yeah. Oh, there'll be plenty of that. But I will see you at 5, won't I?
Mm-hmm.
For training. We're still a big deal in Tunisia, you know.
I know, they can't get enough.
I know. But when you look at the stats, Tunisia's right down the bottom.
No, it's North Africa.
Very good.
Not that good.
No. It's not. It's weird. There's UK, America, Germany.
What's this ranking by what?
Audience.
Okay, yeah. Got
And
you.
then China have made an appearance. Yeah.
That's since
So
I
I
got
saw that.
1,000 views on TikTok.
That's slagging off of Chinese you've been doing.
They put a limit on gaming time for children.
Hmm.
Good.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you trying to get the Chinese listenership up? What? What are you
To
on
be honest,
about?
if you look at the what's happening in China, it's like 1950s Britain.
Yeah. Oh, and you think that's good?
Yep.
Was 1950s Britain good, was it? Well, you wouldn't even
I was
know,
only
man.
young.
You in here? Oh, yeah.
No. So, okay, carry on.
No, we're
Yeah,
big
Tunisia
into...
is low in our list of countries,
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah.
but high. So when you kind of click like in our stats package, you click last month, and you hit Tunisia. I'll go in reverse order, shall I?
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with Finland. We peak position in the last month of 73.
Mm-hmm.
Germany, 100.
What, in the charts?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know any of this. Yeah,
This is for all. So this is Apple Podcasts,
Yeah.
mental health.
Mm-hmm.
100. That's all right, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great Britain, 226. You think of all the shit that's out there, right? And we're in 226. That's good, right?
Mm-hmm.
India, 119.
Mm-hmm.
Doing quite well there. Japan, 113. This is peak. We're probably not there now, but I'm just for clarity. Singapore, 56. Sweden, which we did all right. We were doing all right there once upon a time, 197. And then Tunisia, we peaked at 42. But sometime this year, we have actually made it
Top three, I think.
Top three, yeah.
Yeah. I got a little bit of feedback because the Tunisian one has been the two positivity ones, hasn't it? It's done really well there and then started going back up. Amelia pointed out that our positivity ones didn't really have any positivity. And
Amelia.
she said, you start, and that was my response. And she went, you started off about Sean Locke dying.
Yeah, I think we were celebrating his life in a positive way, weren't we?
Yeah. I think she might have a point.
Did she listen to it? Did she get past that bit? What about the other 58 minutes of absolute gut? That was okay. Positivity, you don't...
It's relative, isn't it? For us, not crying is positive.
Yeah.
Turning up.
That's actually true. But yeah, we've always said we're not the shock jock radio DJs, are we?
No.
So clearly not. So I've got a couple of things I want your opinion of. You don't know what I'm going to throw at you. I'm going to throw at you.
I love
It's
this.
current affairs.
Is it like a quiz?
If you really want.
Can we make it into a quiz?
Would you like to win?
Yeah. How many points? Go on then.
3 questions.
Okay.
Total of 3 points.
Okay.
And I'm not playing.
Okay.
I'm going to read. I'll read something, and I'd like you to respond.
Okay.
In a timely manner, because I'm not editing. Please. Donald Trump is creating his own social media platform called Truth Social.
Yep.
Any thoughts on that?
The only thoughts I have on that is that due to a blip in the continuum, someone managed to get in before it had been launched and took the name Donald Trump.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I probably kicked him out, haven't they, already?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't really have any thoughts on it. Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Oh, any kind of opinions on the name? Truth Social?
Nope.
Okay. Really?
Yep.
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Live and let live.
An early version of his latest venture, Truth Social, will be open to invited guests next month and will have a nationwide rollout within the first 3 months of 2022. According to a statement by Trump Media and Technology Group, TMTG. We can't stop making companies, can he? Mr. Trump wrote, "We live in a world where the Taliban has a huge presence on Twitter, yet your favourite American president, you can't knock him for being a complete tool, can you? He's funny. Where your favourite American president has been silenced." I think he's got a valid point, hasn't he?
I think he's got a valid point.
Yeah. He also said, "Everyone asked me, why doesn't someone stand up to big tech? Well, we will be soon," he added.
Good.
Yeah.
Yep. Always in favour of the little man.
Yeah. He's got little hands, hasn't he?
Oh, that's Jeremy Beadle.
Oh, great. Bill Gates and Boris Johnson have buddied up.
In Love Pact.
In Love Pact, yeah. Any thoughts on that?
You said in a timely manner. I mean,
you can't not have an opinion on this. Or would your thing be, "I told you so"? I knew he'd be knocking around, sniffing around, getting these little kind of,
I
Microsoft fingers in everything.
I think it's the fact that every single thing. So there's something I'm going to put on Insta later this evening.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. It's a cartoon, and it's a load of sheep in a field, and there's a great big billboard of a wolf, and it says, "I'm going to come and eat you all," and the sheep are just grazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sums up exactly where we are at the moment, that there is no need to have any pretense of respectability or that stuff isn't corrupt. If you remember on this podcast many months ago, I mentioned a guy called, his name I've now forgotten, I think it's Owen Patterson. He was a Conservative MP in Shropshire. I hope I got the name right.
Who cares?
Yeah. So there's a Conservative MP.
This is our truth, Mark.
Yeah. And he was a consultant for Randox, who are going to get involved in some clinical supplies. He's just been basically kicked out of the House of Commons for 30 days for
30 days.
Excessive lobbying.
Right.
And that was the company that...
So someone's had enough of him.
He's just been pushing...
Going, Can I have? And
at the time, when I mentioned on the podcast, it was like, why is someone who's in Shropshire lobbying for a company that he has no connection with and no expertise and no medical background?
Right, yeah.
And now he's been chucked out for going at it a bit too hard.
30 days. It's like stand outside the classroom, isn't it, and think about what you've done and come back at the end of term or something. It's not...
I think the word they used was egregious, E-G-R-E-G-I-O-U-S.
Right.
Egregious.
Is that the...
Yeah, I mean, if we can do that live on air without any editing.
Egregious.
Egregious. Well, we haven't done word of the day for a while, have we?
No, we haven't. Egregious. Not egregious.
Egregious.
There was no accent with that.
Egregious.
Outstandingly bad, shocking.
Yeah, well, that's how he is. So, yeah, that is go away and think what you've done.
Right, okay.
Do it one more time then.
I've just closed the tab down.
Egregious.
So ahead of COP26, this is a new partnership with Catalyst. What? I do this a lot, and I normally edit out. But I copy and paste from websites. And then, obviously it's word for word. I read it back in. None of it makes sense. And I find that a lot. And I find some of when I used to kind of, the last lot of episodes I've done this.
Because the grammar's so poor?
Yes. None of it, it reads really badly. So I'm not going to read it.
No,
just look like a fool.
They can't put an effort in.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, he's going to help. He's going to help save the world, isn't he, Bill Gates? And the last thing I wanted to talk to you about, hopefully you have a bit more of an opinion on this, Mark. This is going really well, isn't it?
Yeah.
I want you to kind of bang the table and go, this is, Quinton de Kock.
Yes.
I'm bringing this story because I think his name's hilarious.
Yes.
Anyone who puts DE in front of their last name makes me laugh all the time. So Quinton de Kock is a South African cricketer.
Yeah.
Yes. So the title is Quinton de Kock refuses to take the knee and pulls out of the West Indies game.
Yes. I don't think that was... You said that with a straight face. We played it with a straight bat, didn't you?
Oh, see what you've done there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I threw you a spinner.
You do know that is loaded with sexual innuendo. You do realise that.
What? Quinton? What's...
It's an oral sex reference. You do know that.
What is?
What you've just read out. Taking the knee, oral de Kock, pulling out.
I say Quinton de... This is on the BBC. It can't be innuendo.
No, you
so
know it
Quinton
is.
de Kock refuses to take
You're
knee...
playing the bloody Bobby Ball to my Tommy Cannon, aren't you?
And pulls out of West Indies game. Honestly. Gutter mind, haven't you?
He...
So any views on that?
Yeah, the one view I have on that is that I've read what the South African Cricketing Association said, and it was basically, you got to do it.
Yeah.
You might not want to.
But they left it quite late.
Yeah.
In terms of telling the team.
And
they also knew that he wasn't a supporter of it.
Yeah. I also saw something today from someone I follow of someone had gone in for a medical procedure, and the door of the place they went, it wasn't actually a hospital, it was like a health centre, had said masks must be worn, no exemptions.
Right.
And the person went in and went, well, I've got an exemption. And
Right.
they went, no.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't do the procedure.
Oh.
So I think that's in the similar vein, that if somebody makes a rule that it's our way or the highway, then there isn't sort of any grey area. But
it's good in some way because it's clear, rather than, if you think of all the messages we've had over the last couple of years.
I guess it's clear, but...
Do you know what I mean? I'm all for people going, no, this is, it's like a landlord, isn't it? Going, you're an idiot, you're pissed up, get out of my pub, right?
Yeah.
It's his place, it's his rules. I have to respect that. So I kind of get that idea. It's a different example, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So he the thing I wanted to point out was, just because he said no, that the assumption is then that he is a non-supporter of what that, let's call the political gesture, stands for.
Yeah.
Which he probably isn't. But the assumption is, because he didn't
He's anti the gesture.
It's like at the football, if people are booing, that means they are the opposite.
Yeah.
Rather than they just don't think it's appropriate that they're doing that at their football game.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're racist or they don't support the causes that all these football play.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It can't just be that black and white.
I was listening to the radio on Saturday, and they were saying, and I hadn't heard this, it was the start of a match, and it said the players are taking the knee, and then the guy read out something that obviously he'd been told, something like a gesture that is to show their support for all forms of discrimination.
Yeah.
And I thought, so what we're doing is going, I don't like discriminating.
Yeah.
The assumption should be that people don't like discriminating, and taking a knee doesn't mean you're not discriminating, it means you're doing what you're told.
Yeah.
Your actions, rather than your gestures and your words, should show you don't discriminate. And this is one of the things.
Yeah. So Quinton is being discriminated. I mean, he chose not to take part.
Yes.
But if he didn't do it, he would have been kicked out anyway. So it would have been discriminating because of his views.
Yes.
So that's the whole thing's ironic, isn't it? Is that your point?
Yeah. Well, the irony goes a bit further. When I worked in probation and prison service, we used to have something that would say, we will not discriminate on any grounds, and then it would list all the grounds in the world, not cricket grounds, but it would be. I actually questioned that at the time, and I said, surely that's tautology. You just go. The mission statement is, we do not discriminate.
Yeah.
By listing what you do not discriminate against means you're discriminated against the people you don't list.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my view as a person, as an individual, as a human, is that I hope in my life I would not discriminate against any group unless I felt that group was going to harm me or harm people I love or whatever it was. But to take away exactly your point, the discrimination was then against that person having the ability to express their views. So you're being discriminatory.
Yeah, absolutely.
If someone doesn't.
It also became about social injustice. It's like, hold on, is there any more other fine, let's lump all the other things in with it as well.
Yeah.
So actually what the gesture of taking the knee isn't about those things. So let's have a different gesture.
Mm-hmm.
Let's stand back and go, how can we do something that covers all of these, do you know what I mean? It covers all of these things, because the actual gesture has to do with something very specific.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it goes back to Kaepernick, doesn't it, with the national anthem and the NFL. Yeah. If we want to go into that, police brutality and all that kind of, that's what that was about. And then BLM care, which wasn't about, it's in the same area, but the specifics of where the BLM stuff came from last year, and George Floyd, that's the root cause where all this goes back to.
Mm-hmm.
When they say, you go on the BBC, what is taking the knee? And it takes you right back to last year.
Yeah.
But the taking the knee is from 2 or 3 years ago now.
Yeah, and BLM is a very specific
they're all good.
It's to do with America, and
they've all got their cause, and they're all trying to do the right thing. But you can see why him going, I don't believe in that gesture, isn't him just throwing the baby out of the bathwater, is it?
No, but just one last thing I'd like, and I did bring this up in the last pod, and I just want to mention it again. Mm-hmm. When we go and have the World Cup in Qatar, two things are going to spring to mind. There will be calls for some recognition of the people that have died in the building of the stadiums and building in the infrastructure. So if we do not discriminate, if that's what the gesture is, and the World Cup say, we're going to continue to take the knee to show we do not discriminate, except the migrant workers, because we have discriminated against them because we haven't provided safety and we haven't provided proper, working environments. Yeah. So you have discriminated. People have died because you haven't helped look after them. Yeah. So maybe you need to do a separate gesture to say this won't happen again. That's the first thing. Yeah. The second thing is that the Qatari rule for basically sex between over 16-year-olds from the same sex is up to 7 years imprisonment. So I'm now thinking that you're going to have people who are clearly making a stand, football associations and football players, about how there must not be discrimination, doing it on a piece of grass in a country where you can get locked up for same sex, which means it's worthless. Yeah. Because all you're doing is doing a knee. Your actions are not.
Yeah, absolutely right.
So, so it is, the word gesture is right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what have you got there, Mark, in front of you?
This is my...
your workings?
It's my, what's the word? Précis of Mr. Huberman.
Right. Would you like to introduce Mr. Huberman?
Yeah.
And Huberman he is.
So, Andrew Huberman. This was... Literally, I just looked at a tweet and somebody went...
It was a tweet. Knew it.
Yeah. And this person went, this guy's brilliant. And I've heard the name before. It had been in my mind to look him up and I never had. And so I did. And he is brilliant. And as I put here...
His podcasts were long, from what you were saying.
2.25 hours. Ooh. Yeah. And he's...
On his own?
On his own, with no breaks.
What?
He does not stop talking for 2.25 hours.
Excuse me, I'm just going to go to the toilet and off he pops. No?
Nope.
He must edit. I know how this works.
You listen to it. I don't think he edits.
Does he take a breath?
You can hear his dog farting in the background. He doesn't edit. So what I've written was that occasionally within all the mire of social media, you come across a rare jewel of someone who's able to hold your attention while simultaneously explaining things you don't fully understand. And I think that's the beauty. I actually feel intellectual when I'm listening to him because I'm sort of nodding sagely to stuff I don't understand.
Does it fill your chest up?
Yeah,
knowledge.
He'll go, "Oh, hippocampus," and I go, "Yeah, I've said that."
I've said that with far less conviction and still felt as good.
So he's a professor of neurobiology and ophthalmology.
That's bird watching, isn't it? Oh, crikey.
Ophthalmology.
Our gig's up, isn't
eyes.
It? Our gig's
no
up.
editing. At the Stanford School of Medicine. So I'm going to speak about 10, 12 minutes to distill part one of his podcasts and to give a whistle-stop tour to the dopamine system. And I think we haven't really decided this, but I was thinking back in an early pod, we went, we're not going to be the sort of pod who goes, "Oh, you should really read someone's book and then talk about the book and not do anything."
Yeah, or I've just listened to this podcast and spend an hour talking about someone's podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I accept that that's what's happening, but I do think there's a public service here that
that allows
2.25 hours is a long time.
Yeah.
So I want to just distill some of it. So, like I said, I think it will give a proper scientific insight to some of the factors you and I often discuss. We also discussed that we'd like to do something on addiction, and I think this actually leads to the last bit of what I'm going to say today actually leads into the link between dopamine and addiction.
Cool.
So I think that is very relevant.
Okay, great.
And so one of the things that I was just sort of wanted to get out at the beginning is that I think there's been a misunderstanding that dopamine is somehow some sort of spark of pleasure and enjoyment, that if you can get it, you feel good.
Yeah.
And what he said, that isn't the sort of adjectives he would use. So it's.
And we've referenced The Social Dilemma a lot, the article on the documentary on Netflix.
Yes.
And it goes into it a little bit, but the way it kind of presents it is that hit of euphoria.
Yes.
You do something and it gives you that, almost like a morphine injection when you're in hospital.
Yeah. Yeah.
A hit of, that's pretty bad example, but you click it and it's into you and you're like, and it's doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah, really bad example.
No, it's not
the first thing I can think of.
But it's, I mean, I think it's the content.
It's the idea, isn't it, that you do something and then you get the hit of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is the common kind of.
And when we get to the end of this, when we talk about addiction, one of the things is that dopamine-induced addiction gets to the point of you continually need that hit, but your body, you can't go on forever.
Yeah.
So you might chase it, but the saturation means you can't find it. So he's going to show us the full context in which dopamine influences our behaviour. So what I was deciding when I was listening to this was to pull out things that I think either we've referenced or alluded to, or things that people could go, all right, I'll give that a try, I'll have a little look at that. So it's a sort of pointer rather than trying to be a science lecture. So one of the things he said was a piece of research that was done around placing people doing research in warm, cool or cold water and seeing the effect. And two reasons I brought this up. They measured through blood draw things like cortisol, dopamine, and this, I'm going to have to play this. My punctuation, my pronunciation of words at the moment, I'm really struggling. So
That's right.
I'm going to play this.
Are you hot? Is it hot in here? It suddenly got hot. I'm hot. I'm going to open a window.
Okay.
Should I play some music?
Yeah.
Do we need some music?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that.
Okay, so this is the word.
Epinephrine.
No, not getting it.
Epinephrine.
Epinephrine.
It's the sort of real name for adrenaline. So we're going to call it adrenaline from now on, but I wanted to use it at least once.
All right.
So looking at the blood, they looked at things like cortisol, dopamine, and adrenaline.
Yeah.
And what happened was that cold water, and this is interesting because we've alluded a little bit to Wim Hof, but we haven't really gone there.
Yes, cold showers.
We've looked at cold showers. We also looked, if you can remember, at the dive reflex.
Dive.
Yeah.
Yeah, the forehead.
Yeah.
Cold water on the forehead.
And
yeah.
I also mentioned during therapy of that person, the person that was in Palestine when there was those bombs, and
You did on your...
someone said, like, just go away and put some cold water on the middle and front of your face.
Mm.
So what happened was that after 15 minutes after immersion in the cold water, dopamine rose up to 2.5 times above the baseline, and I'll talk about baseline in a minute.
Yeah.
And it also sustained after you got out of the water.
Yeah.
So all this sort of positive news that's been given a bit about cold water treatments and stuff seems to... But the thing I raised this at the beginning is that, I guess from social media and other things, my thought about dopamine was chocolate, red wine, sex,
Not all
roller
in that
coaster.
order.
Yeah, not
all at the
together.
same time.
You don't want to spill your wine. And but this is something that you wouldn't necessarily think, and this is, I think, why it isn't just a pleasure response. It's around motivation, desire, satisfaction, craving and striving.
And I guess that I'm not preempting anything, but is there any other things that prolong it for as long as cold water does?
It's certainly up there amongst the longest.
Like a squat, something that keeps working after you finish doing it.
Yeah.
Well,
nice reference.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Good. So I mentioned that again because we have alluded to it.
Yeah.
So he actually says that the dopamine hit is a misnomer. The body uses dopamine by having a base level of dopamine constantly in your body. And that is formed by genetic things, I think some environmental things. So we all have this baseline. And why that's important is that the key element of the production of dopamine is your contrast to your baseline.
Yeah, and we're all different, I guess.
Yeah.
So we've got loads of it, some of it, none of it.
And some people will be on what seems like a constant high and have this sort of certain level of striving and craving and obsessional stuff, and other people won't. So what he says is that level of dopamine has a really big effect on determining your mood and motivation. But it's the peaks, but also the troughs on either side of that baseline that determine your more extreme moods. So what he says is when you crave something desirable or exciting or pleasurable, that actually provokes the dopamine the rise in dopamine levels. It isn't purely, it can be the anticipation of something.
Yeah.
So what he was saying is that quite often the dopamine hit isn't like, oh, I feel good. It's striving or planning for something or getting. So he was using the example of caveman who needs to go out and forage.
Mm-hmm.
It's that which gets you up. It's the dopamine which goes, right, I'm now going to, strive, and I crave food, so I need to strive and go out and do it. Adrenaline provides the energy that gets you off your arse.
So dopamine is the motivation.
Exactly, the motivation.
The adrenaline is the fuel to do it.
Yeah.
So that's why we often get confused that dopamine is an outcome.
Yes.
Rather than a precursor.
And there's a couple of things when we're going to look at the things that you can either do or ingest or whatever to increase dopamine, that on one example, the striving for that particular behaviour is as strong as hit as the behaviour itself. So it's the anticipation.
Yeah.
So he said here that dopamine has everything to do with how you feel now, but it also has everything to do with what's gone before. So this is the baseline. So basically, we're not looking at constants. We're not looking at a constant amount of dopamine that if you have a bit more, you stay high and stay high and stay high. There comes to the point where you're saturating. And I guess as it's like something to do with nature.
Or they might, sorry.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, I was going to say that, or it might not have any kind of level of being sustained, I guess. But you might think it is. So but you might have anticipation about having chocolate, then you have it. That doesn't necessarily mean every time you're having you might not even get a dopamine hit from having the chocolate. It's not nailed on, is what I'm saying. But the anticipation of it,
yes,
you have it. You have another one isn't going to increase that anymore, or because it's the anticipation that's giving you the hit rather than the actual thing itself.
Yeah, and actually,
unless having it, that probably releases other kind of chemicals as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, but when we're talking about dopamine specifically. Yeah, what you said is really interesting because he gave an example of going into a restaurant. He said if someone goes he said he eats croissant all the time, and he said he said that someone had said to him, this place, it's an Italian bakery, and wherever he lives, is off the scale, and he said his anticipation of finding an off the scale croissant was like exciting. When he got there, it was almost doomed to failure. Yeah. Because unless it was like the nectar of the gods. So it was like the dopamine bit didn't come from the croissant. Yeah, it came from the anticipation of having it. So it's called, this is the sciencey bit, it's called a neural modulator, and it influences the communication of a whole bunch of neurons. He compared it to like a coordinated dance. There's some other bits which I think is called neurotransmissions, where it's two neurons speaking to each other. He said this is much bigger. It's bringing in other things, including adrenaline and that. Okay. So he keeps using certain things, which I'm going to repeat because I think it's interesting. He said mindset, energy, and accomplishment. All these words are what he uses with dopamine, as well as motivation, drive, and craving, and also time perception. I'm not going to cover it now, but it was really interesting that your perception of time, which I think is that, I'm guessing is that bit where, God, I thought I'd only been here 10 minutes, but I've been here 2 hours because I was having a good time. Yeah, right. So you can understand why time, when you're not probably getting dopamine, drags, which makes sense. Yeah. So just repeating what I said, because this is important, how exciting or how pleasurable an experience is doesn't just depend on the height of that peak, but the height of the peak relative to the baseline. Yeah. So if you increase your baseline and increase the peak, this won't raise your level. So it's the contrast, it's the difference between where you start and where you get to. So the key is optimizing that ratio between the baseline and the peak. So the point he was saying on that is that if you're between low and high dopamine, it'll depend on your recent high or low dopamine experience about how what thrill you get something, and this explains why you can do the same thing on different days, and one makes you excited and one is like so it's this contrast between where you are, so it's what's happened in your body before. That makes a load of sense, and I think that will to people, won't it? Yes. Yeah. You go, I've done the same thing, even if I did it the day before. Yeah. It's not feeling as good. I'm again. Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to explain why. Yeah. And I'm wondering whether just using this on a training is a couple of people this week have gone, I don't feel very strong today. Yeah. And I'm thinking maybe they've had a hard day
Yeah.
and their perception of their strength is low because their dopamine is low.
Yeah. Yeah.
They aren't any weaker than they were 24 hours ago.
Yeah.
That
it's
isn't,
not.
that isn't possible, is it,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
So what he was saying is about how to schedule dopamine. So we are going to do a little bit on that. We're just going to look at where dopamine can be put into your schedule and how to control it
proactively.
Yeah. So the first thing that I just wanted to say before we look at actual things that you can use to increase dopamine was how they found out that it was around motivation and craving. And it was, or one of the ways they found out was an experiment with rats. And they put rats into a cage and they basically taught them to push a lever down and it released food. And the food came out, the rats ate it, and every time they wanted food, they did the lever. What they then did is blocked the neurons so that any dopamine in their body wasn't activated. So it took away the dopamine. They put them back in the cage, they pressed the lever, and the food came out, and they ate it. So what they then thought was, well, they're eating not because of the pleasure of the dopamine. They're not eating because of the thrill. They're eating because they're hungry and it's food. They then
I'm really struggling to kind of assimilate with that rat.
It's like great experiment.
You got nothing out of it? What's wrong with you? Weirdo.
So they then moved the rats further away from the implement with the lever, and the rats didn't move towards the lever. The striving, the craving went. So it was that dopamine was the motivation to move to get the food, which is quite an interesting perception because I was thinking about this in terms of clients and training, and the number of clients who've gone, I want you to motivate me. And I'm thinking, if we knew more about how motivation worked through dopamine, we can almost use chemicals to our advantage to get into a position where we do feel motivated.
No, sometimes I've no idea what gets me to training in the morning. I'm thinking,
what makes you stay there?
I'm just thinking, what's my? I mean, it's a credit to your services, clearly, isn't it? That I have that much anticipation and adrenaline buzzing around my body to get me there.
I don't know why I'm here. I'm questioning my very existence.
I get there. I'm like, I got here. Now I'm a bit stuck as to why.
Job done. So we're just going to run through a few things because I don't want to overrun on this. So basically, these are averages, but they're true in the effect that
you say they are.
No, in fact, the general, you're not going to have every person in the world responding to chocolate the same, but as a general rule.
Yes.
So he says that chocolate increases your baseline by 1.5 times, and no difference between milk and dark. And well, no, but the reason I'm saying that,
I'm sorry, Chuck. There's a conversation here about milk.
Well, the
reason
reason I'm saying is a lot of people are having dark chocolate because I think they've been sold a little bit like the red wine. Oh, dark chocolate. Dark chocolate is just full of fat. That's why I think it gives you a bit of more of a buzz in certain things, not necessarily around dopamine. Chocolate tends to last in seconds or minutes, and I think the example I gave to you last week is, I think chocolate is the key one with the law of diminishing returns. I found myself the other day eating a big piece of chocolate, had about 10 pieces, had a couple left. It wasn't doing anything. I felt slightly sick.
So you ate them?
So I ate them.
Of course you did.
But I think that's very much around my addictive personality, like in the vain hope.
But also your competitive personality.
I'm not going to be defeated by
those two little punks.
Sex is 2 times above baseline, and whether it's the act or the pursuit of, it is equal, near enough. The other thing, which I didn't get through because he's done another podcast, is that different aspects of sex have different effects on dopamine. And I think I mentioned this, the example of the American president going to the chicken farm and being shown the rooster, and the farmer saying, this rooster has sex about 1,000 times a day, and the president's wife going, oh, you could take some notes. I think it's Coolidge, and him saying, but he has a different hen every time. And there was a lot talk and
did he get slapped?
He got henpecked. And I think the reason I'm bringing that up is that there's a lot around novelty in this. So if you keep eating chocolate, the novelty
Yeah.
there has to be this contrast. It can't just be.
I think it's probably why we get the stuff with like popping candy in it and jelly beans, and just to spice things up a little bit.
But that is interesting. No, that's seriously interesting.
Well, Cadbury's have gone nuts. Sorry. No, everyone's a fruit and nut case. They have, haven't they? They've gone mad.
Everything's combinations now, isn't it? You don't just get chocolate.
Joan from Solihull has created a new flavour. Vote on Jane's flavour.
Yeah.
They're tapping into that, aren't they?
Yeah. Nicotine 2.5 times, so above chocolate and sex, especially when smoked. It's different when smoked as opposed to patches and things like that.
Okay.
But is very, very short-lived.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, chain smoking in terms that it wears off, you go back and get another hit.
Yeah.
And for all of these, this is where the addiction bit's going to come in when we talk about it.
Yeah, because there's diminishing returns, and then you're saying there isn't. There's also examples where you can keep, unless I've got this wrong, if I kept eating chocolate, I'd suggest that any high or whatever I was getting from that wouldn't be sustained the more I ate it.
No.
Whereas if I chain smoked, that would.
No.
Because because that's more of a chemical kind of, or would there be a point where your baseline suddenly catches up with, say it's 2 times, you smoke so much, your baseline increases.
Yes.
Therefore, you've got to smoke more to kind of, because that was always the way anyone, especially when the police came into the primary school and talked about drugs.
Yeah.
They said, well, it gives you a high, but then when you come back lower. I mean, you come back lower than your baseline.
Exactly.
So you take more, and then, and it's that kind of idea that you have to take more just to get back to where you were.
Yeah, I mean, you're sort of right and you're wrong. You're right in terms that the craving for this cigarette has given me a buzz, therefore I need more buzz. But what happens, and I know this from my own addiction, is that you get to the point where there isn't any feasible way you can continue to have another high.
Yeah.
Because your body, your mind, everything is saturated and totally worn down. But I think what happens, from my own personal point of view, is that I got to the point of going, 8 hours ago, I got a high from this. I'm going to keep trying. It's out there somewhere.
Yeah,
but if I analysed the last 6 hours of my addiction, I didn't get a buzz from that.
Yeah, right.
All I was doing was chasing, something that was invisible and impossible to obtain. But I think you are right. He was saying that chemical ingestion seems to be a lot more consistent with people all around the world. So nicotine 2.5, cocaine 2.5.
Well, it would make more sense about alcohol, drug addiction over, chocolate.
Yes.
Yeah. But so there, sex addicts, aren't there? And
or binge eating as well is much more of a mental thing.
Yes, and we're into dire consequences and all that.
Amphetamines were times 10.
Whoa!
So
I gotta get me some of those. No joke. That's a joke.
No, we did talk about
that.
We did talk about it a little while ago.
What, getting some drugs?
Yeah.
Did we?
Yeah, we did.
What, and just having a little go?
Yeah.
Oh, look, the buffet of drugs. Yeah, we did, didn't we? Yeah, my mum had a go at me for that.
Did she?
Mm.
You can invite her this time.
Yeah.
Or the fact you got a new dealer.
Yeah, get off my patch.
Nicotine patch.
Oh, Mark.
Okay.
Sorry, let me get to this.
So one of the things that he talked about, and this really made sense in terms of favourite mugs and all the other shit we've talked about, was he had what is called a pilot pen. It's the pilot's the mate. Yeah. And he said, I've got this in my hand. And he said, if I engage and talk to you now about it and look at it and concentrate on it, he said, I love this pen and the way it writes and blah, blah, blah. And he said that can have an effect on the rewarding effect. It can have, you can almost sort of get more by engaging more with what you're doing. So he said you can get a buzz by going, God, this is a lovely pen and I love the way it feels. Okay. And we've talked about that on other pods about sort of, and he was saying this is where journaling is. He said if you start recording and writing down how good it was to hold that pen. You're going to get into mindfulness as well, aren't you? Yeah. I'm thinking about your shower. Yeah, yeah. We haven't been in there together. I'm thinking about you having your shower that you know, and you think about the water and, because I guess that's you kind of trying to get that hit of almost from anything you're doing, right? Yeah. And is that fair? I think it is fair because I think what's happening is that, and we've talked about ranking before, I think I'm constantly in that position of trying to maximise what I get even from inanimate objects.
Yeah. Like
Do you know what I
the
mean?
shampoo bottle. And all
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And he says by recording a behaviour, you can increase the release of dopamine, which is really interesting. So 2 other little things. I'm going to be very brief, and I'm not going to do the whole thing. One is that caffeine will increase the transmission of dopamine, but it only increases it by a small amount, but it acts as an accelerant for the neurons to get working on the other stuff.
Okay.
So it isn't like you're going to get a dopamine hit, but it gets everything ready and prepares it.
Yeah,
And I just wrote these down. You have a cigarette with a coffee.
Yeah.
So layering.
Yeah.
Sex with cigarettes afterwards. Food and coffee and cigarettes. So it's almost this layering that you're having something that gives you a hit. And I think in the past, cigarettes have always been, I want to keep this going.
Yeah, right.
Cigarettes always seems to be the thing that you tag on to other behaviours, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
So one thing I'm going to say, which is around rewards, and this is the last thing for training, and this is the takeaway. He gave an example of a kindergarten where 3 and 4-year-old children were given a load of paper and a load of paints, and they picked up the brushes and they painted loads of paintings. They then changed it by putting them in the same room, but every time they'd completed a painting, they gave them a gold star or a small certificate or a reward. After a short period of time, they removed the rewards. The children stopped painting. This is the key takeaway. If your rewards are the reason for you doing something, it'll have a negative effect. So the last one I'm going to do is exercise on that scale is 1.5.
Right.
So a little bit below sex, pretty similar to chocolate. If you do not subjectively, because it's very hard to measure enjoyment objectively, if you do not subjectively enjoy the activity, the dopamine increase is 0. So what he was saying is people try and enjoy exercise or enjoy the gym by watching EastEnders on the treadmill.
Oh, right, yeah.
By putting on loud music. Everyone now wears headphones.
Yeah.
By wearing ever-increasing clothes that are either more expensive or more fashionable or are going to get validation from other people. So it's almost like the cigarette being added on.
Interesting.
The other thing he said is that people have pre-workout. Pre-workout has caffeine in, which is to get the dopamine going. However, none of these work. And he said it actually has a negative effect because if you chase it for the reward, and this is where
or is it a case of it's so grim, I'm going to have to make it more bearable? That probably comes into it in a little bit, doesn't it?
It does, but your mind knows
so are you trying
grim.
to trick yourself into enjoying it? Is that what we say, the rewards? So I'm going to go and train, because I guess there's a. I know what you're saying.
He says if you say
it's not bad to have a reward if the reward gets you through training and you've achieved something in training, but that's a kind of a slightly different thing, isn't it?
What he was saying is that is short-termism.
Yes.
It's like saying if I go to the gym, I can have a pizza.
Yes.
And he said if you concentrate on the pizza rather than the process of getting there,
Yeah.
in the short term, you might get through it, but it isn't lasting.
Yeah,
and that's the example of the children with the painting.
Yeah.
If it's the reward itself doesn't carry enough of a dopamine to keep you going back to the gym 4 or 5 times a week. Yeah. So maybe you can't force yourself to enjoy the gym, but what you can start to do is, he was saying the no pain, no gain is although it's overused in the wrong way, he was saying you should be hurting, you should be exerting yourself, you should be out of breath, and you should be saying to yourself, thank goodness I'm hurting, thank goodness I'm out of breath because this is why I'm here, rather than going, I'm out of breath, but that's okay because I'm going to have a pizza. Yeah. So you won't be releasing the dopamine. And I think this is why I go back. It's been 42 years that I've been going to gyms. I enjoy nearly every session. Yeah. I don't need rewards. I don't need any other stimulation because I enjoy the exercise. I get my rush of dopamine. Yeah. And that's enough to keep me going every time.
Cool.
Very
good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's it, Mark. We have to wrap up.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, you're cold.
Nights are drawing in, aren't they? And the mornings are drawing out. The mornings draw out or in? Is everything drawing in?
The clocks go back dark next week, don't they?
Yeah, it's dark. Dark in the mornings, dark in the evenings. We're going to have to wrap it up.
Mm-hmm.
We left everyone on a beautiful takeaway. Not the pizza.
The pizza, yeah.
So that's it for this episode. Well done for getting this far, and thanks for listening to us. Connect with us on the socials, Instagram, Facebook, FB.
Are you anti-Facebook for a reason, or just because it's shit?
It is awful. Don't get me wrong, there's the community stuff in there, the kind of forums, and it can be very useful. Connecting with loved ones, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I get all that. But overall, it's got a lot to answer for, isn't it? I thought they were going to call it something like Horizon or something like that.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know. I heard something on the grapevine. Follow us on Instagram, I think, is probably the call to arms, isn't it?
It's the cleanest of the options, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is shinier than Facebook.
Yeah, we need to do I've got TikTok written here. Can you do a TikTok for us? We might have to
watch?
we might have to show our faces. I think we need to kind of, put ourselves out there.
You're getting all marketing.
Yeah, we've had this discussion. We need to,
Well, I need some content for that dodgy website, dodgy Instagram people, didn't I?
Who dodgy what?
The ones that wanted photos.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We should just try it out. I think we should...
Okay.
It's going to involve you getting your top off. Because that's the only thing that's going to get hits. So, yeah, search for Sam at imfinecast. And if you really want to drop us an email or say hello, it's imfinecast@gmail.com. So in the next episode, you've already touched on it, Mark. I think it's a great idea because I think it'll tie in very, very nicely, which is addiction. We've been trying to get to that for a while, haven't we? So you're happy with that?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I'd also just like to say a thank you. We do go on a little bit back the charts because we are fucking needy. But
don't bring me into this.
It was nice that we disappeared and people have come back to us in really good numbers.
Yeah.
So I was really, it is affirming that because we've been a bit inconsistent, haven't we? People didn't necessarily know when we were coming back, but yeah, the figures have been really good.
A lot of people don't follow us on Instagram. They're like, I didn't know you had a podcast out. It's like, well, you clearly don't follow us then. You're paying any attention. Have I just lost a few listeners?
No.
Having a go at them for not being attentive enough.
No, they just like you being angry.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Oh, is that anything official? I can turn that on.
No, just a couple of people said to me, if he ain't gonna be funny, try and get him to do another emotion.
Right. I don't know how to take that. No. Should I be offended by that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. We'll see you probably in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. See you then.
Bye.